Critical Role Recap, Season 2, Episode 48. So last week we ended up with the Mighty Nein having finally dropped off the second Cloven gem, this one inside of Ford, him getting his powers over water, and they made their way back to Nicodranus. The episode ended with them just arriving in the port, and so that's what we picked up this week. They had already forged some documents, and they got their way onto the dock without a problem thanks to the forged documents. They also handed off ownership of the boat to Orly, who was dubbed Captain Orly, and he decided that he was going to basically run some errands on the ship in their stead, and they could just communicate with him anytime they wanted to. And he could communicate with them also freely, he said. He's got the ability to do that, so he can let them know if there's anything that they need to know about, and they can let him know whenever they want to pick it back up. After that, they just went and hung out with Jester's mom for a bit, basically spent a couple days catching up with her. They reunited with Nugget, their Blink puppy, who is now a Blink adolescent dog, still very untrained and was making a ruckus in the home. And so the Ruby of the Sea asked Jester, could you please take your dog back, basically. So now the Blink puppy is with them permanently. In their time in Nicodranus, they also went into the tower that seemed to grow and shrink and become flaccid and erect whenever they would move away and towards it.
Sorry.
And they finally just decided to knock on the door, and the door opened, and essentially they eventually talked their way in and started to have a discourse with Yusa, who is an elven mage that ran the tower. And in there, they told him about the dodecahedron. They showed it to him even. They also showed him and ended up giving to him the Happy Fun Time ball, because he said it's a dangerous implement. If you want to investigate it or something in the future, you can do so, but only with me there to oversee it, to make sure that things are safe. And Yusa indicated that he knew of the mage that owned it and said that the mage had been gone for a while. And so basically he was like, this is too dangerous. You guys are dealing with a bunch of dangerous stuff you don't seem to understand. And they're like, yes, exactly. That's why we wanted to make friends with you. And so they're kind of beginning this relationship of trying to form some trust with Yusa, and Yusa's trying to gain their trust as well. And in exchange, he offered Caleb the knowledge of his teleportation sigil, essentially, so that in the future, once Caleb learns the teleport spell, he will be able to bring his entire crew, all of the Mighty Nein, back to that tower for safety. They began to make their way to Felderwind in order to try and track down a halfling friend of Nott, where the recent damage had been done by the Crick Assassins, where they had come up from underground, burned part of the town, destroyed a couple buildings, specifically the alchemical building, and then escaped and collapsed the tunnels behind themselves. Nott begins to frantically search the area, and we gather that this is where her friend was. She learns from the guards nearby that come looking around like, hey, why are you guys digging around in here? That her friend specifically was missing. They hadn't found his body yet. And as they continue to investigate, they find that there is a locked cellar door that is magically locked, and through Jester's use of Dispel, they get down there and they find in there that the room has been completely tossed, and there's another locked chest. They open up the chest, and inside they find some sort of vial of viscous, smoky, liquid-ish, gas-ish material, and a couple of notes that have been, a lot of papers have been destroyed, but there's a couple of intact notes that they find that tells them basically it's some sort of material that has to do with their dodecahedron that in some way can alter time, speed it up, slow it down, maybe has to do with gravity. It's basically some sort of magic that is a different school of magic than all the other schools that are generally practiced during this time. And we learned that there are two elven mages that have been wandering around the town recently that Caleb knows of from his time with the Cerberus Assembly, I believe it's called. And so he has these connections to this thing that's going on in Nott's area, and it also all has to do with this dodecahedron and this type of magic. At the end of the episode, Nott rushes over to Edith's place where he learned that the son of the apothecary was being housed because he was found alive and did manage to get out and escape. When she went there, Nott disguised herself as a halfling and then presented herself as the mother of the halfling child. So he came out sort of tentatively and was a 5-year-old halfling, which Nott embraced and treated as her son, and kind of explained, like, we're gonna find your father, he's not dead. Also, I'm not dead, by the way. And yeah, so that's basically where it ended off, with Nott having just pretended to be the mother. Like, maybe she's just impersonating the mother because she has a connection to the family in some other way, or Nott is actually the mother and had just always disguised herself as a halfling every time she had interactions with these people. And that's why she left town, was in order to try and turn herself permanently into a halfling, as she had alluded to in the past with Caleb. And with these two mage people, the elven mages, wandering around the town seemingly looking for the materials that they just found, or also possibly the dodecahedron itself. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff kind of up in the air. But yeah, that's about it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Sorry, you just start over with a flaccid and erect. I forgot that we were recording.
They made their way to the tower that would grow flaccid and erect. She's in her hair right now.